Hey everybody, Steven Ruderman here with your Insomniac Lunatic Fringe Giants pregame show. Just the second pregame show we have done this season. The Giants were unable to get the sweep of the Dodgers yesterday. Just have to tip your cap to Tyler Glasnow. Eight dominant shutout innings, just one hit, nine strikeouts. Giants just ran into one of the best pitchers in baseball. All you can do is tip your hat. The Dodgers were able to get 3 runs off Logan Webb, which were enough. And, Logan Webb has not been off to the greatest start this season, but he finally got his first quality outing. 7 innings, 7 runs, 7 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs. And also hitting Dalton Rushing. Dalton Rushing did have an aggressive takeout slide into Willie Adames afterwards, but to Rushing's credit, he did acknowledge that he deserved it. Dave Roberts said, yeah, it was intentional, but Webby is an old school guy. He's protecting his teammate. Hey, it's over. Settled. And that's how you settle it. Now, just for the record, there are certain things that you only do on the baseball field. For those of you kids at home watching, that's one of them. You don't do things like that outside the baseball field. I've got a restless dog here, Lola. But, I wish the Giants could have gotten the sweep, but it really, truly would have been too good to be true. Winning the first two against the Dodgers was already too good to be true. But just a massive series win in a series that I thought we were going to be swept. So the Giants are 11-14 after the Dodgers series. And the schedule is going to get much easier over the next week and a half. You got the Marlins coming in for 3 who aren't the greatest team. The Phillies are going through the Dave Dombrowski crash. They are 8-17. I mean, you got to give them credit. They came back and fought hard in a seesaw battle at Wrigley yesterday, coming back down from 5-2 to tie it. They also came back from down 6-5 and 7-6 to tie those at 6-6 and 7-7, but they ended up losing in extra innings. But the Phillies, it's the Dave Dombrowski crash. He always brings a lot of success to places, wherever it may be. Montreal, though that was kind of different. That was his first gig, but Florida, Miami, Detroit, Boston, and Philadelphia. But he builds winning cores, but they always age really quickly. And when they age, they crash and burn. And, last year when the Braves, who had a disappointing season, last year when that happened, I thought that, it's possible the Braves run may be done, but probably not. They probably are towards the end. They're starting to get up in age. But the thing is, with the Phillies, their run may be over. I mean, their core is aging rapidly, as I mentioned, as Dave Dombrowski cores do. So over the next 9 days, the Giants are going to have an easier schedule. So hopefully they can go 6-3 in that stretch, get them to 500 for the first time this season. And then after that, they have the really rough 10-game stretch against the Padres, the Pirates, and the Dodgers, the 4-game series at Dodger Stadium. I said 2 weeks ago if the Giants could be 19-25 at the end of that stretch, which will conclude on May 14th with the finale at Dodger Stadium, that the Giants would actually be in pretty good shape. So they would have to go 8-11 in that stretch, and I think they could even do better than 8-11. But as long as they're no worse than 19-25 with what will be a much easier schedule afterwards, I'll feel pretty damn good about this team. And I do feel good about this team. Tony Vitello is really bringing out the emotions in these guys. Of course, Tony's a real character. He's a quote machine, something we've really been lacking from the game. You already got Drew Gilbert, who played for Tony in Tennessee, who's a real throwback. But, you're seeing guys like Eric Miller, and you're seeing guys like Ryan Walker show their emotions. You see Logan Webb pick it up for his teammate. Logan Webb, when asked about the Dalton Rushing drilling, he's like, one thing with Jung Hoo Lee. A baby Webby. This is old school baseball right there. And see, Rushing, not his biggest fan with the comments he made in Denver and, the fuck him in regards to Jung Hoo Lee. But hey, maybe it's showing that he's got some room to learn. So, again, young player, he could learn in the next year or so. So, good first step, kid. Tip of the hat to you as well. Didn't like the takeouts wide of Willie Adames, but points for admitting that you deserved it because you did, kid. You did. Also want to talk about Patrick Bailey. Bailey's been off to a rough start this year and has never been the greatest hitter for the Giants, but that guy always knows how to come through in the clutch. The walk-off inside the Parker against the Phillies last July 8th. The walk-off grand salami against the Dodgers September 12th of last year. His first right-handed home run since August of 2023. And then the big 3-run homer in the 7th inning on Wednesday, also from the right side of the plate. He's not the greatest player, but he's great in big situations. That's for sure. If the Giants were to, because I want to talk about Bailey, because I have been clamoring for the last 2 weeks, well, for the last month and a half since spring training, but particularly for the last 2 weeks, for the Giants to call up Jesus Rodriguez. I got a look-see at him in Sacramento on Wednesday. He legged out an infield hit, but he did have a base hit taken away from him on a great diving catch out in center field. But the guy, he's so much better than Patrick Bailey at the plate. And, now with Daniel Susak being on the injured list, he's got some sort of nerve injury in his elbow. That's not good. Daniel Susak off to a great start for the Giants. So that's a tough blow. Also some injury news. Jose Budo, unfortunately, is probably going to be out for the season. He had I think the blood clot in his arm, similar to Vinny Cholk. I remember he had that. So he's apparently going to be out for the rest of the season. So that's a blow because the Giants bullpen is far from the greatest. Though I will say this, Tony is finding a way to make the Giants bullpen work. They don't have the greatest bullpenners, but he's finding a way to make it work. And Ryan Walker has picked up 2 saves. Tony went to him again on Wednesday, and this comes after Saturday. Me saying that Tony Vitello could never, that Ryan Walker should never close another Major League game again. Well, he's picked up 2 saves since I said that. Reverse broadcaster's jinx. So Tony is getting the best out of his bullpenners. I also want to mention how Patrick Bailey was able to hit that 3-run home run. And that was because with runners at first and second, no one out in the bottom of the 7th inning on Wednesday, Tony had Drew Gilbert lay down something called a sacrifice bunt. I know a lot of baseball fans today don't know what a bunt is, but it's where you catch the ball with your bat. You kind of deaden it. And when Mike Krukow was talking about, it's a skill it's see much of today, it made me so sad. There's no reason for the bunt not to be here. And when you teach a 5-year-old, or however many years old a kid is when they learn to play baseball, you teach them the basic fundamentals of baseball. And one of those fundamentals is laying down a bunt. There are a lot of great things you can do with the bunt. And what sucks about the shift ban is that when teams would used to shift Brandon Belt to pull, which was interesting because Belt was a damn good opposite field hitter. We saw him do this many times, including in the World Series in 2014. He would just bunt against the shift and lay out a base hit. Sometimes in situations like that, you can even lay down a double. Sadly, the shifts like that are no more. Thank you, Rob Manfred. But bunting, as I've said, there are many, many ways to play the great game of baseball. I was talking to a high school varsity assistant coach yesterday when I was at the game, and he was telling me, because I've noticed when I've umpired, a lot of guys take those HLP swings, as I mentioned the other night. I can't say anything as an umpire because I'd be tarred and feathered by both the coaches of the team and by my supervisors. And I asked him, do you guys try and get them not to take those swings? And he said, yes, but the kids, they're young, they're arrogant. They watch the gurus, they watch the con men like Richard Schenck, a.k.a. Teacher Man 1986, and they want to swing the bat that way. The guy was telling me that a guy he knows who was swinging that way, he's now 38 years old, threw out his back as a result and has had 3 back surgeries. So there's something to look forward for you kids. And let me tell you something. I've never had back surgery. My grandmother has. Back surgery is no fun. It's just not. And if you kids out there want to follow con men like Richard Schenck and these other con men gurus on YouTube who've never played organized professional baseball, well, 3 back surgeries, that's your future. So let's talk about the game tonight. Giants and Marlins, game 1 of a 3-game series. Marlins come in, they're a halfway decent team. They're not the worst team. They're a team on the men. They've got a good farm system. They come into tonight 12-13. They've got their ace, Sandy Alcantara, on the mound. The Giants with Adrian Hauser. Hauser was able to pitch about 5 innings after a really laborious second inning in his last start against the Nationals in D.C. last Saturday. So he will be on the mound tonight. Willie Adames is going to lead things off. Luis Arias, Matt Chapman, Rafael Devers, who is in desperate need of a day off. I don't know why Tony's keeping him in the lineup. He's hitting cleanup. Casey Smith, the DH, hitting 5th. Jung-Hoo Lee, 6th. Elliot Ramos, 7th. Drew Gilbert hitting 8th. And Eric Hasse, I forgot to mention that part. They could have called up Jesus Rodriguez when Daniel Susak went on the injured list, but for whatever reason, they called up Eric Hasse. We're going to see him for the first time. He will hit 9th. There is absolutely no reason not to call up Jesus Rodriguez. The guy, I would have called him up, as I've mentioned, over Drew Gilbert, and I like Gilbert. I think both are very similar guys. They're contact hitters who get on base and don't strike out much and can hit over 300. But the thing is, Gilbert's the kind of guy who is in need of some seasoning. And all three of these guys are the kind of guys who, when you call them up, you don't want to send them back down. All three of these guys are everyday major league guys. And, well, of course, forgetting about Bryce Eldridge, who needs to get his strikeouts down. And I know some Giants fans want him called out. Now, you got to be patient with that. Yogi Berra said it. Baseball is 90% mental, the other half physical. You can't rush a guy to the big leagues. There are things, especially mentally, that guys need to work out in the minors. And Zach Bayruti, the voice of the Rivercats, said on 95.7 The Game a couple weeks ago that when the Giants call up Bryce Eldridge, as I was just saying about a minute ago, they don't ever want to send him back down. They called him up for his cup of coffee in September last year, which was absolutely the right thing to do. But when you call him up later this year, you don't want to send him back down. You want him up here for good. And same with guys like Jesus Rodriguez, same with guys like Drew Gilbert. I personally think Gilbert needs some more seasoning in the minors. He's coming into tonight's game hitting .217. I do feel like there's probably going to come a point where Gilbert's going to need to be sent down to the minor leagues. It's just the sense I get. But I really want to see Jesus Rodriguez. He's also got a really unique batting stance. And he is someone who I think could be a real spark for this team. And later this year, I think, as I've said, I think the Giants are rebuilding. Buster's not admitting it. I wish he would. And as they rebuild the right way, which is rebuild and try and contend at the same time, it's going to be the kids like Eldridge, like Gilbert, like Jesus Rodriguez that are going to have to step up. And they're going to be the ones that, if this team does make a run into the playoffs, that help them get there. So the Giants are playing the Marlins tonight. Marlins are not the greatest team, 12-13. The Phillies, they're in Philadelphia Tuesday through Thursday. Phillies are 8-17. And then they go and finish what is going to be a 2008 World Series road trip in Tampa next Friday through Sunday. Speaking of the Tampa Bay Rays, people know I really want expansion. I think they could have 2 teams on the field as soon as 2029. But, of course, Rob Manfred is taking expansion hostage to prove that he has power over the owners. And unfortunately, the Rays' new ownership group is just as much of a clown show as Stuart Sternberg and the old ownership group. So they're trying to build a new ballpark at, Hillsborough College. It's over where, in between Raymond James Stadium, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play, and George Steinbrenner Field, where the Yankees train. And, of course, the Rays played last season when the roof at the Trop was being fixed. And they have been completely dishonest about the cost. The plan also takes away over 2,000 parking spots from Raymond James Stadium. And now all of a sudden there are articles again about, could Orlando be in play for the Rays? Could Charlotte be in play for the Rays? They should have just sold the team to Montreal. Oakland was where baseball needed to stay, but Manfred wanted to get them out of Oakland. But Tampa, where you don't have the greatest fan base, and where they're even now we now have the second ownership group failing to build a park. Baseball is beating on the dead horse of keeping the team in Tampa. And I'm not knocking the people of Tampa. One of my best friends lives in Tampa and is a big Rays fan, but it's not Montreal is so much more of a baseball city than Tampa Bay. It just is. I'm sorry. It's just the truth. And I don't know when this thing's going to be fixed because the lease at the Trop runs through 2028. And it's actually very similar to the A's that now they have their second clown show ownership group failing to build them a new stadium. You know, before Fisher and Lou Wolf, you had another, I forget the names of the people who own the A's between Haas and Wolf and Fisher, but they too tried to build a new stadium and failed miserably. So Lou Wolf wrote a new book, and he is blaming the Giants for the A's leaving Oakland, and the Giants are very much to blame. I think the Giants had wanted this. The Jim on Base show is here. Ryan, how are you, bud? The Giants definitely have a lot of blame here. I think Larry Baer and company, they've wanted San Francisco to themselves for a long time. However, people like Lou Wolf and his buddy John Fisher are also very much to blame. And what Lou Wolf was saying, well, the Giants interfered in our efforts in San Jose, which, yeah, that's not right. A team should not be able to claim a territory that no one plays in. A team should not prevent a major league city that doesn't have a team from having a team. That is absolutely, that's horrible. That is horrible. But one, the A's belong in Oakland, not San Jose. Two, Wolf admitted in his book that San Jose was a ploy to get Oakland to come to the table. So you're mad at the Giants because they interfered in your ploy to extort the city of Oakland of their money. Jesus. See, I cannot stand people like this. You did this to yourself, Lou Wolf. You really did. And you're not going to blame John Fisher, who, when the city of Oakland was actually coming close to finance to a deal for a new beautiful ballpark at Howard Terminal, Jack London Square, which is very realistic, would have been one of the greatest ballparks in the game. You're going to not blame John Fisher, who walked away from that? Are you serious? I have no use and respect for people like Lou Wolf because look in the mirror, Lou. You're one of the people most to blame for this too. Yes, Larry Baer is very much to blame. Peter McGowan, the Johnsons, the Giants ownership group is very much to blame. Absolutely. But people like yourself, Lou Wolf, and John Fisher are even more to blame. So I just wanted to put that out there. It's interesting. This is a pregame show for a specific game in which the Giants are going to play tonight, but I've talked about past Giants games and I've talked about issues around baseball. Speaking of the last two games, the Dodgers debuted a new alternate road jersey this year. The Los Angeles, they had an alternate jersey in 1999 as well that they didn't keep. It was an all right jersey. But good. I like the colored jerseys. We need more of them. We need colored pants like you had in the 70s, though with belts and not the elastic waistband. I love the Orioles' new road gray orange pants. I think the A's should go back to what they did in the late 60s, which is, gold road jersey, gold pants. Teams should have different. Not every team should be white at home and gray on the road. You have the Giants, who are cream at home. The Diamondbacks are cream at home. You have the Padres who do the sand khaki on the road. I actually, when the Diamondbacks did the dark gray on the road from 2016 to 2019, I thought that was a pretty cool look. We should teams do dark gray. I love that the Yankees got rid of their hideous 1973 to 2023 road jerseys and went back to the pre-73 road jerseys, but really make it the pre-73 road jerseys and do that old-fashioned gray that they used to have. That would be such a great road jersey for the Yankees. And honestly, the Yankees should make their home uniforms cream. But speaking of the Yankees may have a new alternate jersey this year, the New York jersey, which they wore during spring training, and up until 2019, teams had special jerseys for spring training, and now teams mainly wear alternate. The jerseys, only a handful of teams actually only wear colored jerseys for spring training. The Dodgers are one of them. The Yankees have been one of them, but the one they wear on the road with the gray New York. Now, I don't like that one. I actually like the home one where it's the white NY. They should wear that one. They're gonna start wearing the gray one for road games. Good. Get with the times, but good as in the Yankees are gonna start wearing a colored jersey, but I wish they'd wear the home one with the NY on it. And they could even wear them both at home on the road. But good for the Yankees to start finally wearing a colored jersey. The Dodgers are wearing a colored jersey this year. The Tigers are wearing a colored jersey. And I kind of, they're interesting. I'll show you the jerseys the Tigers unveiled for this year. And they're interesting, to say the least. Let's see here. I gotta, I do these shows myself, so I gotta. What are you eating? Got my cat and my dog in here. These are the jerseys, and they're an orange jersey at home where they don't wear orange, and a navy blue on the road. I like them both, but the Cardinals are now the only jersey, the only team that doesn't wear a colored jersey. And no, I mean, yes, they technically do with the City Connects. And this is the Dodgers, New Jersey right here. Which I think is a pretty cool. I think that's a pretty cool jersey, though I wish they'd wear. Well, yeah, Nike has their stupid 4 rule. You can't have more than 4 jerseys because the Dodgers have gray jerseys that have Los Angeles and Dodgers. So that's technically their 4th jersey. What a stupid rule. But I'll show you the Yankees jersey that they're going to start wearing on the road. And it's this one. It's the New York. Again, I think it's cool that the Yankees are going to be wearing a colored jersey on the road, but this one right here would be a much better one with the NY on it. Hey, the Yankees are still under the stupid Nike 4 jersey rule. Why not go for it? But we got to take jerseys into the future. I actually, went back a decade ago when the Diamondbacks first introduced their 8 jersey set that they had from 2016 to 2019. I used to be contrarian, and that didn't do me any good. I think those jerseys were actually pretty cool with the diamond patterns on them. Teams should do stuff like that. Show some character to their jerseys. Just as we need more characters in the game. And again, that's what I love about Tony Vitello. And as I was managing earlier in this show, Tony's getting a lot of emotion out of his players, letting them be yourselves. I was talking to a friend of mine at the park yesterday, and he was saying, be you. I've long said that we need another 1960s counterculture against the bland, sterile, robotic corporate culture that plagues American society today. We should call it the Be You movement. Be you. Don't be a phony that you're not. Be you. So anyway, Giants and Marlins tonight. The Phillies, I might as well give you a Phillies update. They're in Atlanta playing the 18-8 Braves. The Phillies are up 3-2. That game is in the bottom of the 6th inning. Grant Holmes, the starter for the Braves, he's gone 6 innings, given up 3 runs, 7 hits, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. Andrew Painter going for the Phils, 5 1/3 thus far, 8 hits, 2 runs. Braves currently have runners at first and second against him with 1 out in the bottom of the 6th. Mike Yastrzemski, the former Giant of all people at the plate, though it looks like according to MLB Game Day, he just made an out. But speaking of former Giants, in case I don't do a post-game tonight and a pregame tomorrow, the Giants are going to honor Brandon Belt before their game against the Marlins tomorrow. I will be there. And I'm looking forward to that. Belt, who means so much to the Giants. The Giants honored Brandon Crawford last year, and they honored Buster Posey in 2022. They're going to honor Belt. And I remember watching Brandon Belt hit his first home run off Clayton Kershaw on April 1st of 2011. And I'm sorry, it was against Chad Billingsley. Kershaw started the opener. I should remember stuff like that. Belt in his first at bat against Kershaw, I think legged out a weird infield hit. It was the ESPN opener, though it wasn't the official season opener. Other teams had opened early in the day. That was the 2 years where they did the season starting in the middle of the week and ending in the middle of the week, 2011 and 2012. But now Brandon Belt is retired and the Giants are honoring him. So it's going to be a good ceremony, and I can't wait to be there. I can't wait to remember so many memories. And the thing is with Belt, he'd be a guy who I would love as a manager someday on the Giants, because that guy a lot like me. Total basket case in the head, but a very intelligent human being. Great hitter. He'd at the very least be a great hitting coach. And I do hope that the Giants have him in the organization to, he'd be a great roving instructor. I've also mentioned Brandon Crawford, would be a great coach down in the rookie league in Arizona. Of course, he lives in Scottsdale, and I think that'd be a great role for him to be a coach down there. But these are, Buster's now running the front office, but Belt and Crawford are both smart players who have a lot of knowledge to pass on to the next generation. And I hope the Giants, utilize that out of both of them. So I can't wait to be there. Belt with so many great memories. What are our favorite Brandon Belt memories? I mentioned his first hit off Kershaw and his first home run off Chad Billingsley. I mentioned his ability to bunt against the shift. That was always fun to watch. Of course, the big home run in the 18th inning in Game 2 of the 2014 NLDS. He was actually telling a story about how basically that home run felt like his first home run. Like felt like he was walking on air. He had 3 Red Bulls, which, by the way, please don't drink that stuff, kids. That stuff's horrible for you. Brandon Belt's a grown man, but don't drink that stuff. Anyway, he had 3 Red Bulls, and he just couldn't believe what had happened. And again, this guy already had a ring. He was on the 2012 team. And just a very, very smart man, and a great hitter, and a guy who had a great career. And I'm really fortunate that I may get to see him tomorrow. Just a really fun and unique player. He was a guy who had some personality. Belt is someone who was odd, quirky, different, weird. Baseball is for weird people. It really is. Baseball is for weird people like myself. And Brandon Belt, he fits the mold. Actually, before I go, Tony Vitello had tried to recruit Belt, but Belt, of course, ended up going to play for Augie Garrido at the University of Texas in Austin. And the rest is history. Augie Garrido, just a legendary coach. Remember, had that rant in 2007 where he was just screaming at his team. And after that, they caught fire. Guys really loved him. And he would have made a great big league manager. And if he was still around, been a great guy for Buster to pursue. Augie, of course, died, I think, about, 9 years ago? 8 years ago. He died in March of 2018. But it is cool that Tony did try and recruit Brandon Belt. And actually, no, I don't think Tony was at the University of Tennessee yet. I think he was, because Belt was Belt was born in 88. So, this would have been 2006. He was the assistant at Missouri. But really cool that Tony Vitello and Brandon Belt have that connection. Brandon Belt would be great on this coaching staff for Tony, by the way. All right. This has been a production of Sports Radio Service. The views and language in this program do not necessarily reflect those of Sports Radio Service, my boss, Lee Leonard, and our sponsors. For Lee, for Ryan of Jim on Base, who came in to say hi, I'm Steven Ruderman. I hope you enjoyed my show. And enjoy the game, everyone. I'll talk to you soon.